So good morning. Welcome to an exciting year for the CSGF Fellowship. As I'm sure you can tell by looking at the front of the program, this is the 25th anniversary year for the program. It is incredible that anything funded by the federal government could last for 25 years. I want to extend a special thanks to our friends at DOE who have gone and done yeoman work to keep this fellowship alive. We should all, when we see them, extend a great thanks to them for that. Let's see, what else am I supposed to tell you about this morning? I think that slide's gone, but every morning there may be some announcements up there, and there may be information about getting on the Wi-Fi. Yeah, why don't you make the change? Yeah, okay. So I thought, since I had the opportunity to stand up here in front of you, and since it's 25 years, that it would be nice to look back a little bit, look at a little bit of history. Since this program's been around so long, most of you in the room have no real idea about its history. I should say right at the beginning that given the events in Cleveland last week, that I should acknowledge the source of the first four words up there. You know, that's from Stephen Hawking. I don't want to be chastised as some people were. So we have done due diligence now on that. The other thing is that's a picture of a galaxy. That's from NASA, so I've taken care of that. So with that out of the way, here's some interesting facts about the fellowship. Sometime in 1990, a small group of people met in D.C. to talk about an issue of the workforce in the labs, particularly with regard to computational science. And out of that discussion, actually, came the CSGF Fellowship. The award was made in DOE to ORAL, that's the Oak Ridge Associated Universities. They were the first managers of the program. In 1991, under their direction, there were 22 fellows that were selected. And, well, I'll get to that in just a minute. In 1992, ORAL again ran the selection process for the fellows, and 20 were selected. But in that year, management of the fellowship shifted from ORAL and went to the Ames Laboratory in Iowa. In '94, I think an important thing happened for the fellowship when Fred Howes became the program manager. There were a couple of difficult times for the fellowship, but Fred really stood up for this fellowship. Unfortunately, he passed away in 1999, but if you notice things in your program, we now have the Fred Howes Award honoring his legacy and his importance to this fellowship. And you'll hear a couple of talks. I think are they this afternoon or tomorrow sometime. Then in 1997, Jim Coronas, president of Krell, formed Krell, and the management of the fellowship shifted to Krell, where it now resides. Now, throughout all this period of time, the fellowship was funded by various offices within DOE, but what is now Oscar in DOE. And then in 1999, NNSA and the ASC program began contributing funds. So the source of funds comes from the NNSA and from the DOE Office of Science, Oscar. This is the first announcement that was put out for the program. I mentioned that fellows were chosen in 91. There was no public distribution of an announcement in 91. The first one was this one. You can see down at the bottom, there's the ORAL recognized. I think one of the interesting things is from the very beginning there was this concept of combining applications, mathematics, and computer science, which of course persists to this day. The initial, there it is, anyway. Program required the practicum just as we have today. It was a 12-week practicum, just as it is today, done at one of the labs. So again, from the beginning, that was an important component of the fellowship. There was no formal program of study in this application. You had to list your courses, and then that list of courses was reviewed by the selection committee to see how well it fit with this concept of computational science. Another interesting aspect that was tried at that time was to create a group of so-called selected universities. And so if you were willing to go to one of these universities that had been blessed by an application that they had to make to the fellowship, then your list of courses wasn't scrutinized as carefully as if you wanted to go to one of the other universities. Well, as you might guess, that turned out to be a complete failure and was dropped a couple of years later. The third aspect was the essay. I think it's interesting to look at the directions for the essay in that first announcement. And I think in particular, it's interesting to look at already there was a reference to high performance, the words there, computational technology, but the importance of high performance computing. Of course, high performance computing in that day and age was about the equivalent of your iPhone now, but nevertheless, it was high performance computing as part of the fellowship. I think it's interesting to look at the distribution of fellows over time. This goes all the way back to 1991. If you add up those numbers, you'll get the number of fellows for each year. These four categories are just sort of arbitrary, but there's a couple of interesting things here. The engineering was dominant in the first few years. You know what that was? It was computational fluid dynamics. That's where sort of high-end computing was in the early 90s. Another interesting thing to notice, the blue line there is biology, biological engineering, et cetera. Almost no fellows. And that represents a real change in the community and the acceptance of computational science in another field. You'll notice various dips out here towards in the 2000s. The fellowship underwent, for want of a better word, a lot of turmoil having to do with sustainability of funding. Again, thanks to our good friends at DOE, that battle was successfully fought and won. And I think we're extremely pleased about the fact that this year we were able to offer 27 fellowships. That's the highest number that the program's ever been able to offer. I think it's sort of interesting to see how you as fellows have chosen to do your practicum. There are a number of long bars there that stand out. Argonne, Los Alamos, Lawrence Berkeley, Livermore, Oak Ridge, and Sandia have dominated your choices for your practicum. Just an interesting aspect. Here's where the fellows are by institution. If you're interested in knowing where the new fellows are going, they are this lower blue line or blue bar at the very bottom. So you'll see Harvard and MIT and Stanford and Berkeley are the dominant universities right now for the fellows. All right, let's give our new fellows a round of applause.